So at the top of your notes, would you please write business application? And today is 2-24. It's 24th today? 2-24. Okay. And the things that you have to know that you remember that little sheet I gave you at the beginning of the unit that said all the terms that you're supposed to know? By Friday, 2 days from now, you're supposed to have that filled in your own words. So if you want to work on that during class today too, that'd be fine. Assignment's pretty easy. Here's a few of them. Cost, revenue, profit, and one other that's, oh, there it is, break-even point. I'm going to talk about those right now. Costs are things that cost you money in a business. Like if you have to buy these like DVDs, then you have to pay for the DVD itself. If you have a business that has a location like a store, you have electricity, heat, gas, payroll, you got to pay people. Revenue is what you actually make. Like that's the good stuff. That's like when people buy your product, you get money in. That's revenue. It's income. Comes in from you having your store, people come in and spend money. All the money they spend is revenue. The profit is where you take your revenue and you subtract your costs. If you actually have anything left, that is profit. And the last thing is break-even point. That's where that magical number of things you've sold, where finally the amount of money you spent is equal to the amount of money that you brought in. So you haven't made any money yet, but you at least haven't lost any money. So if I, for instance, started a business that I spent $44,000 to start, and I finally sell enough units that I have made $44,000 in income, then my income equals my expenses. That means I broke even. Okay, that happens a lot in businesses where that's all they do. They don't make any profit. They kind of exist. They barely make it, and they can break even. Okay, let's talk about some personal experiences. I want you to think about this restaurant that I ran into and what it would be like for them, for their costs and their revenue. There's a Chinese restaurant that I know of, and I got to meet them early on when they were starting their business, and they talked to me a little bit about all the expenses that they had, because it really was a shocker for me how much money they have to spend. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you want to have rent for your little restaurant. Figure on at least $2,000 a month for rent. This is per month. Okay, and that's kind of a small place. Next, figure on, and this was one that the Chinese restaurant guy told me, he was like, couldn't believe how much he was spending. It was like $2,000 a month just for the gas bill. That's like for natural gas. They run their woks with these, the furnace. It's like a big furnace back there all the time, blowing this, flames onto their wok, and they're stirring up the food, and they lift up the wok. It's kind of cool, and the big flames shoot out. But they use up so much energy by not only heating the restaurant, but also for their stove, that they're running like $2,000 a month just for the gas bill. Okay, so just those two alone, before we've talked about any other expenses of buying the booths or buying the food or buying any of that stuff, you're talking $4,000 a month. Okay, times by 12, just to get an idea for a year. Can you do that in your head? $48,000 a year. In just those two things. Wouldn't you agree there's also a lot more things you have to pay for besides rent and gas bill? I mean, like water and electricity and blah, 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 blah. So $48,000 a year is just a couple of their bills. And those are going to happen pretty much all the time. Whether business is good or bad, you still have to pay your rent, you still have to pay your gas bill. All right. Then there are also some costs that are variable. Like if you get a lot of people in, you have to buy a lot of food to serve them, right? And so we're going to figure out a cost per unit. These are going to be considered our fixed costs. Granted, there's more than that. I know that, but we just want to keep it simple here. And then our variable costs have to be multiplied by a variable, which is how many people come in. So wouldn't you agree that if they serve you a plate of food that they have cooked, that the food itself has to cost them some money, right? So if they serve you a big plate of certain things that they make more money on than others. Like if it's got a lot of meat in it, they don't make that much money. They really love it when people buy the vegetarian deal because the veggies are cheap and they charge about the same thing for it. So I know that he really complains about this. There's one dish that I like to order that's tangerine beef. Got lots of beef in it, and they tells me they buy the good beef, and it is good. And that stuff is so expensive on the beef that they are not making much money at all. But we're just going to pick a flat amount, and for the average person that goes in there, let's say that they spend $2 on the meat or the veggies or the whatever that they serve you for a meal. So that's $2 for each type person that comes in. Plus, I got to think there's at least $2 in other expenses for each thing. This is for food. For each person that comes in, like other expenses. So that'd be $4 for each person that comes in. So you got to feed them, and you got to have. There's going to be a little bit of water involved for cleaning the dishes. You got to have. There's all kinds of other expenses. So $4 for each person, plus the $48,000 a year of fixed expenses, and this would be our costs. C equals 40 or 4x plus 48,000. It's very simplified, but you could see if you took the time, you could actually get an exact number for that. Then revenue. This will be easier for you guys to relate to. How much do you think they get, like total dollars coming in from an average person who goes to a Chinese restaurant? Give your opinion, and don't forget to include not just the meal, but whatever else they spend. Yes. $15 was given as an option. Yes. $8 a person. All right. You got to include. If he's including a tip, and he's not, and then maybe one of you guys might be including a drink, and one of you guys might be not, because some people don't order drinks. So I'm sure you could spend $15. Would you agree? At least you could spend $15. Oh, easy. And do you agree that you could also go in and also just only spend $8? Okay, so let's average it somewhere in between. 10's a nice round number. Let's say they get $10 from each person that comes in. Then I go 10x. Now, here's the important part. Think. The break even is where your revenue equals your costs. So what do I do now? Yes. Set it up the same way that I said it. Revenue is going to equal the costs. What you said was right. It's just not setting up the same way I said it. If revenue is equal to the cost, yes? Yeah, if revenue equals cost, then what is revenue? Revenue is 10x. 10x equals what is cost? 4x plus 48,000. Then we'll find our break even. Our break even is not going to make us any money. It's going to just make us not lose any money. Would you please solve this one right here with your calculators? I'll pause while you do that. Okay, so you solved it. You got x equals 8,000. What does that mean? 8,000 people have to eat, and then you will, what? Break even. You haven't made any money. So let's divide that up by 12. Somebody take 8,000 divided by 12. Because I want to know how many a month have to eat. Ooh, evil. All right, 666 a month, so let's divide that by 30. Oh, okay, fine. Then it's not so evil, right? All right. Divide that by 30, and what do you get? So 22 per day. All right, so basically what you want to do is set your two equations equal, and then you find your break-even point. Now, does he really want 22 people a day to come to his restaurant? No, he wants more because he wants to make money. All he's doing is breaking even. He's doing all that work, and he's not getting anything. Okay, so 22 people a day is a starting place, and then he hopes to have like 40 or 50 come so he can actually make some money. And there's nothing wrong with that. All right, here's another kind of general setup. You got a small business has $10,000 in equipment, etc. I'm going to show you how to set up these equations. I want to see if I can make this on one video, so I'm going to pause. After you're done setting up the cost equation, then you just set up the revenue, and it was $1.20 for each one, and that's right here. And what do you do with the two equations then? Set them to be equal to each other. And final answer once they're set to be equal, is 18,000 units in that example.